Ladies and mostly gentlemen, today we're going to talk about Vulpera, and the possibility of these little foxy boys becoming an allied race in Battle for Azeroth. So I've done these types of videos before. I did it with the Sethrak, I did it with the Naga a long time ago, and I feel like the Vulpera especially are a very interesting case, and in this video we're going to go over a few things that really make it, kind of obvious that they may actually become a playable race at some point. And if they don't become a playable race, then at least give us, some sort of way to transform into them, because I know there's a ton of fans out there that want them, but there is also a ton of fans that don't want them. So yeah, let's just go through this race. Let's talk about the customization options, the animations, what faction, what mounts, and various evidence and everything to do with the Vulpera in this video. So let's begin by talking about the actual model for the Vulpera. So the Vulpera are based off of the Goblin model. So a lot of the allied races are obviously based off of original races. So you've got the Mag'har, which are obviously Orcs, you've got the Lightforged, which are Draenei, and Vulpera actually, as I said, use the same rigging as the Goblin. So in turn, that actually means that pretty much every piece of gear works on these Vulpera, which is pretty awesome actually. Helms are a little bit fruity with some of them, but the majority of gear does actually work quite well with the Vulpera. One issue is obviously with the scaling of the shoulders, but again, that's something that can be fixed so easily. And that's just one piece of evidence right there that just goes to show how easily Blizzard could potentially bring in the Vulpera as a playable race. So let's quickly talk about the customization options for the Vulpera. There are currently 4 different options for the Vulpera. There is actually a 5th one, but for some reason I couldn't get that working. In the game files, it's called skin color, face, markings, and horn style, and there's also an option to change the ears, but for some reason I couldn't get that working. So horn style is not actually horns, they don't have horns, it's actually the size and shape of their snout, but we'll go to that one in a minute. So let's talk about the skin color. So this is the same for males and females. There are currently 8 options for the Vulpera, and I'm actually a massive fan of the variations here. So the first one you have is this kind of light orange one. You have kind of grey one, which is nice, and as you straight away, these massive differences in colors really makes them stand out from most other races where you can have this much variation. So you've got that, you've got the lighter orange again, which is similar to the first one. You've got a more dark and grey one, which is awesome. You then got kind of like a reddy. Then you've got the more reddy one, which is really nice. You've got a complete white one, which is awesome. I really like the look of this one. This is one of my favorite ones, I think, honestly, because it's just so different. You go from the white one back down to kind of like an orangey brown one, and then your final one is a really dark and awesome looking one, similar to kind of like a raccoon, I guess. That's kind of what I like about it. It is a fox, but you can kind of make it look like different animals, which is awesome. Now for the face options for the males, there are 6 options. Each one of them is really cool, actually. It adds different markings to the face. Doesn't really change the shape or anything like that, but it does change the eye color, which is definitely a massive difference between each one of them, and kind of similar to the panda, I suppose, where it's like different shapes around the eyes and things like that, which is really cool. For the females, it's a similar story. Each face option does change the face quite dramatically. It actually increases and decreases the amount of eyeliner on the eyes, which is kind of strange, but again, it changes the eye color and it changes the coloration and the markings on the face, which is really cool. Speaking of markings, you have 3 options for the markings. Essentially, these are just kind of like tattoos, I guess. These are the same for the male and the female. You have this first one here, which doesn't really have any markings on it at all. You have the second one, which is kind of like stripes throughout the body, which I really like, and then the final one, which is kind of dots around the body as well, which again is pretty cool. But yeah, there's not too much variation there, but that's something they could definitely improve on. And finally, horn style. As I said, this is not the horns, they don't have horns, but this is the size and shape of the snout. As you can see here, it changes size and shape. There's about 6 options in total. You can really see the differences from the side, and from the front you can actually see that the nose changed shape as well. This is the same for the males and females. They have pretty much the same ones. The male final one is pretty funny. It's actually really long, but it is cool, and it's kind of nice to have this option for the Vulpera. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the customization options currently for the Vulpera. There is actually quite a few, considering that it's not actually a playable race, that it's just an NPC race at the moment. So originally when the Vulpera first turned up on the Battle for Azeroth Alpha and Beta, they actually used a lot of the same animations as the Goblins, but over time, they actually have developed their own animations. One of the best ones for me is this jump. They have like a little flip that they do, and it's absolutely incredible. It works fine on the males, but sadly the female one doesn't really work. They just kind of stand still, but again, that's something that could easily be fixed. Another animation is the mounted animation. As you can see here, when they jump on a mount, their tail kind of perfectly sits around them, and it looks really great actually. I really do like that animation. Another one is the sleep animation, again, using that tail kind of curling up, sort of like I guess a fox or a cat or something like that, which is a really cool animation. Obviously, that's not exactly the same as the goblin one, because that would just look really weird. But sadly, there is no dance for these guys, but again, that's something that could easily be put in there, and if Blizzard do it, for goodness sake, please just do the goddamn dance from What Does the Fox Say? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, just do that. Just do that. Why wouldn't you do that? That's just silly. It's silly to not do that. But pretty much a lot of the other animations are just taken straight from the goblin, but they do look great on these foxes. So now let's talk about allegiances. Now, I know you look at this guy and you think, right, this is clearly an alliance race. Look how happy and fun he is. But no, these Vulpera, if you've played the Battle for Azeroth storyline, are very much on the side of the Horde. They do not have any love for the Alliance, really. There is a few quests in Vol'dun that the Alliance can do for the Vulpera, but for the majority of the time, the Vulpera are sided with the Horde. There's a ton of evidence in-game, and actually recently, during the funeral of Rastakhan after the Battle for Desire Law, you could actually speak to Cairo, which is one of the main Vulpera, and he has some choice words for the Alliance. So he says, "News spread to Vul'dun about Rastakhan's death. I couldn't believe it. I understand the Alliance wants to stop the Horde, but this is too far. My people will do what they can to help the Zandalari through this difficult time." So what could that mean? Maybe killing Alliance or doing stuff like that? Yeah, there's definitely some evidence there to say that they are very much on the side of the Horde. Obviously, there is a chance where they could be neutral, similar to Pandaren, where you choose between Horde and Alliance, but yeah, for me, they are a Horde race, and I get that people look at them and you don't really think of Horde instantly. You know, you look at the other members of the Horde, you've got the rugged orcs and the trolls and things like that, but yeah, they'll probably slot in there quite nicely, I think. I think recently, especially with the inclusion of elves in the Horde, like the door is pretty much open for any races to just walk into the Horde at this point, let's be honest. Okay, so next up, let's talk about the mount that these guys would use if they're an allied race. Now, for me, it's always going to be the alpaca. So the alpaca model was something that was brought in Battle for Azeroth. It's a great model. I love the look of it. I love the run of it. I love everything about it. The alpacas are involved in the Vol'dun story with the Vulpera, and yeah, it's just an obvious choice, honestly. And I think Wowhead actually data mined some data saying that there might be some sort of alpaca mount coming soon. Hopefully not a store mount, hopefully, potentially, you know, an allied race mount for the Vulpera. Obviously, it would need some armor and some kind of sprucing up, but it's pretty damn good. Other choices could be some of the unused colors for the hyena mounts. The hyena mounts came in Battle for Azeroth. There was a few unused colors which weren't used throughout the expansion, so potentially if they were feeling lazy, they could just use those colors that they created and haven't used. The other one would obviously be a Crowlusk. The Crowlusks are things around Vol'dun. We've already got a ton of Crowlusk mounts in BFA. It'll be a bit of a cop-out if we do end up with another one, but yeah, that's just another possibility there. So just thinking of more proof of these Vulpera becoming a playable race at some point during Battle for Azeroth, the Vulpera Caravan Discord, which is a great Discord, there's a ton of people in there. If you are a fan of Vulperas and you want to see these as a playable race, there is a Discord dedicated for you. I'll leave the link in the description below this video. They've been a massive help in this video, so thank you so much to all of the guys over there. So they actually did an interview with an unnamed World of Warcraft dev talking about the Vulpera, and there was some questions that they could answer, but there was also some questions they couldn't answer, so it's very interesting. Some of the questions that they did answer is just basic ones, like it says, Sethrak, do they really eat Vulpera? They say that it's kind of like a horror story for Vulpera, which is kind of funny. They actually talk about the pronunciation as well, which I think I'm actually been doing it wrong this entire video. They say that it's actually pronounced Vulpera. So yeah, there you go. I've been saying it wrong the whole video, so there you go. Vulpera, apparently, but there'll always be Vulpera for me. It's fine, whatever. And then they go on to questions that they couldn't answer, and there's actually some really good questions in there. They asked about the model being polished and tweaked over the time of Battle for Azeroth, and yeah, sadly they can't answer that one. They also ask about the cloak animation. So the cloak animation actually perfectly moves out of the way for the tail of the Vulpera. It's actually really cool. But again, couldn't answer that one, sadly. And just some general questions, and really good questions, sadly, but again, they couldn't answer. But this Discord have an entire channel called Data Mining, which has a ton of information, and I could go through it all on this video, but we'll be here all week. So if you do want to check it out, as I said, link to that Discord is in the description below this video. So now let's talk about when. If this was to happen, when would it happen? Now, historically speaking, most allied races have come in the 0.5 patches, in 7.3.5, in 8.1.5, so 8.2.5 is actually bringing in the new Worgen and Goblin models. So in my head, I'm not really seeing the potential of an allied race coming in that patch. I mean, they could, there's definitely a chance of it, but I think honestly that slot is being filled by the new Goblin and Worgen models. So if we were going off the thought of the 0.5 patches being for allied races, 8.3.5 seems like the most likely choice. That's if that patch actually exists. We already know 8.3 is going to exist, so you'd imagine 8.3.5 will be something. Then of course, the big question is, what do they come with? So allied races come in pairs, one for the Horde, one for the Alliance, and if we're going with Vulpera, going with the Horde, who would join the Alliance? Now, everyone says Mechanomes. Mechanomes are going to be a big part of 8.2, with Mechagon and everything going on over there, so that is definitely a potential. I personally wouldn't like to see a Mechanome allied race. I'd prefer to see extra customization options for the gnomes for the mechanical body parts, similar to the Night Warrior stuff for the Night Elves. I think that'll be a better choice. We've got these new Jinyu type fellas coming in 8.2 as well. They're going to side with the Alliance. That could potentially be an allied race right there. We also could get something completely new that we haven't seen at all, or something old and much requested like High Elves or Tuskar, which would be incredible, but again, wishful thinking, I think. And of course, there is a ton of love for the Sethrak out there. They would probably join the Alliance if they had to join someone, but that would be really cool. But sadly, I don't think gear is really supported with them, so it would be a ton of work for them to do that. But again, it's a possibility. It could happen. So Sethrak and Vulpera, for me, seems like a perfect choice. But again, I think the Sethrak for them is just too much work to throw into an allied race like that. But you never know. It could happen. So at this point, you're probably on the fence. You're like, okay, these things are kind of weird. I don't really know if I want them. And what really swung me, and it's so funny that I say this, and it is actually true, what swung me for these foxes was the idea of transmog. So there are a ton of pop culture characters that kind of fox-like or have this kind of Vulpera look to them, and there's a potential for a ton of awesome transmog in WoW, and especially with them loosening the transmog restrictions in WoW with the upcoming patch where they're going to be able to not show any chest or boots or gloves or anything like that. These transmogs could work really well, so I'm just going to slide off a few that could be really great for the Vulpera, and I cannot wait to see if people do end up making these transmogs. So first one that comes to mind is Crash Bandicoot. That would be hilarious. You've already got the skin color for it. You could just throw on some blue shorts and there you go. Make him a monk so he spins around. That would be great. You've got Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy. That would be a great one. You've obviously got a skin color which would probably work pretty well. My personal favorite and the choice for this thumbnail is Robin Hood from Disney's Robin Hood. That's a great one, and the final one that I could think of was Sly Cooper from the Sly Cooper games, yeah. So there's a few. I'm sure there's a ton more out there that you guys can think of. Let me know down below if you can think of any other awesome transmog ideas for the Vulpera, because that honestly is the thing that really got me kind of excited for this race. Okay, so that is pretty much it. That's pretty much everything I wanted to cover about the Vulpera. Again, I understand that there are a ton of people that don't want these in World of Warcraft. You're probably writing a comment right now frantically saying how much you don't want them, how much you hate this video and hate everything about it. For me personally, I wouldn't mind them in World of Warcraft. I think there's something different, and I think that's what's kind of cool about them is we keep getting these races that kind of look like humans, but it's really nice to have something a little bit different every now and then, like the Worgen or like the Tauren and things like that. Because at the end of the day, people are going to say, oh no, not furries in WoW, but let's be completely honest here, it's a fantasy game. We have humanoid cows, wolves, and space goats, and I'm sure a little fox running around is not the weirdest thing in this universe, and that's what you got to understand. And if you do hate them with a passion, don't attack the ones that enjoy it, because at the end of the day, it's what they like, and people like different things in WoW, and if you don't want them in the game, then that's fine, but just don't play them. Just don't play them. Let people have the option, because as I said, the Vulpera Hype Caravan, there's a ton of other communities that are just so large and really just want these guys in the game, and at the end of the day, you know, we just want everyone to be happy. So let me know down below what you think of the Vulpera, what you think of the race, if you think some of my speculation is correct or a little bit off. I'd love to know what you guys think, and whether you think this should be an allied race or just be an item that you transform into, because that's always a second option they could do if they don't feel like doing an entire race around them. So before I go, I'd like to give a massive shout out to my amazing patrons, YouTube channel members, and Twitch subs. You guys are awesome. If you'd like to support the channel in any of those ways, links are down below. So leave a like on this video, guys, if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't. We've also got a partner Discord channel with over 3,000 members and a merch set over on Streamlabs, and I've also now been streaming on twitch.tv every single weekday, playing WoW, doing community events, doing really fun stuff. So guys, if you want to check me out on stream, twitch.tv/MrGM, link is in the description below this video. And with that, guys, I'll see you next time.